Hi everyone. I've just got a little special guest with me here. I've got my little boy Victor. Hey Victor, you gonna say hi to everyone? Yeah. There you are. All right, go ahead. So now ready to go and look at the first Ottawa printings of the 1 cent small queen. Okay, so the very first printings that were made of this stamp were to an untrained eye, they're deep orange or yellow orange for the one printing made on the very scarce, thick, soft blotting paper. In Unitrade terms, they're deep red orange, or orange. That's the terms that Unitrade uses to describe the shades. Now, one way that you can identify the first Ottawa printings is by the perf. So quite often the perf on at least one of the two sides will be 11.9 rather than 12. You don't see the 11.9 gauge reappear again until the very end of the second Ottawa period, but it's quite prevalent in the first Ottawa period. Usually the stamps will be a combination of 12 and 11.9. Occasionally they'll be 12 all around, but more often than not they have 11.9 in the measurement. Okay, the other way to identify them obviously is by the crispness of the impressions, which having been the first printings will be very sharp. And then the next way to identify them is by the paper. So the paper, one of the characteristics of the papers for the first Ottawa printings is that it's extremely soft in most cases. If you take a stamp and you do sort of what I call the finger test, if you hold it up like this and you do this, okay, the stamp glides very, very easily and smoothly through your fingers, encountering no resistance at all. No roughness, no feeling of texture, really. Very, very smooth and silky. Now, it's something that you do see occasionally in the mid-Montreal period and in the early Montreals, but not with the regularity that you do on the first Ottawas. The papers themselves, in every other way, they're different in terms of thickness and than some of the later Montreal products, but they're usually, quite often, they're vertical mesh papers. They tend to be thinner, and then they have clear mesh usually. There are some horizontal wove papers too, but they're not the stout, thicker, coarse wove, horizontal wove paper that you see in the mid-Montreal period is not present in this early Ottawa period. The mesh tends to be quite fine. The paper's thin. It is highly finished on the felt side, but it's not, you don't see a lot of ribbing or coarse mesh like you do on those later papers. So that's another way to distinguish them. So I'm just going to show you very quickly here. I'll turn the camera around. I'm just going to take this off the tripod. And I'll turn it around, and you can see the stamps that I have now identified. Now, one of the things I will point out here that you'll probably notice, the last video I shot with the plate dot perf 12 printing showed very little difference in shades. So the camera doesn't seem to show the differences as well as they appear in real life in the flesh. Because all the shades I showed in my last video were distinctly different. But here you see a range of the orange-red here. This one here is a deep orange yellow, or yellow orange, I should say, not orange yellow, yellow orange. That's another orange red. This one here is the yellow orange on the thick soft blotting paper. So if you turn them over, you can see, well, the camera's probably not going to show the differences in mesh, but I've identified 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different papers in the first Ottawa period. FOA, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. And these are all different examples of those papers. So some of them you may be able to see the difference, like here. This one here is a vertical mesh paper. It's somewhat translucent compared with this one that is more opaque. So you can see there's more opacity to this than there is to this. This is a thinner paper. The thick soft blotting paper, this is a hard one to identify. I missed it for several years. I had this stamp identified as just a standard orange. But the key thing to look for on this stamp is hairiness in between the perforation holes. Most of the perfs on all of these printings here usually are discrete in that the holes are clean. There's no fibers inside the holes. The perf discs are usually fully punched out. On here, the perf discs are fully punched out, but on most of these stamps, usually there will be perf discs adhering. But the thing that identified this as the soft blotting paper was the extreme hairiness in the holes on this side here that I was able to see under magnification. And the paper is thicker than all the other papers here. Not hugely thick, but definitely thicker when compared with all the other papers there. So that's a quick overview of the first Ottawa printings. I don't have a lot of them there, and they are pretty scarce stamps. I would say they're probably just as scarce as 1 cent large queens are. So you won't, if you're buying a standard lot of, unsorted 1 cent small queens, you're not going to find very many. Which makes it hard if you haven't seen what the orange red looks like. It's difficult to imagine it just from the catalog description. So that's the first Ottawa. My next video, I'll take a look at some early Montreals. I don't have a lot of them, but I'll also show you the mid-Montreal perf 11.5 by 12, 11.6 by 12, and 11.75 by 12. Thanks for watching. Bye.